10 minutes, go right ahead.
All right, I'll give you a quick bio of myself. A lot of you I haven't met before, most of you haven't met before. I'm running for Congress in the 7th Congressional District, which includes Calhoun, Eaton County, Jackson, parts of Washtenaw County, Lenawee Branch, and Hillsdale. I too was a Marine, Semper Fi.
Semper Fi.
And the great thing about the Second Amendment is, of all the amendments, it's probably the least party-oriented, which is a great thing. It's an American issue, whether or not you have the right to own a gun or not. And so it's nice to be at a crowd where you have an issue that Americans care about on a bipartisan level, really. And that's a good thing. I often thought when I was in Iraq that we allowed every household to keep and bear an AK-47, and that kind of mentality that we allow the Iraqis to do that, should also be translated over here in America as well. I don't believe it's just a hunting issue. It's a personal protection issue, and I'll get into that in a moment. I'm from Pennsylvania originally. My grandfather was Art Rooney, founded the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I sit on the board of the Steelers, and I moved to Florida when I was 13, met my wife in high school. They were high school sweethearts. Went to college in Massachusetts, played football, Williams College, real small school. Then I went to Florida State Law School and studied constitutional law. I was the teaching assistant for the constitutional law professor as well. That was my favorite subject. Joined the Marine Corps a while. I was in law school. I was a Marine officer for about 8.5 years. And only was going to do one tour, but 9/11 happened and I wasn't going to get out before the Marines were going wherever we were going to go. I'll share one story about qualifying. I was made a platoon commander in the first part of the basic school, which is 6 months of learning how to be a basic infantry officer. Some people call it 1,000 boarding slides because you're in the classroom a lot and you watch a lot of slides, but you're out in the field a ton. And I was a platoon commander at the beginning for the first 3 weeks, and I was tasked with getting everybody ready, 60-man platoon, getting everybody ready to go out to the firing range because this is where you qualify on the pistol and rifle. And they say usually the platoon commander doesn't do very well because you have a lot of other things to do, but I can tell you, when I got on that range, a calm overcame me. And for a lawyer, I was the 4th best shot in the whole company. 3 guys in front of me was a Navy SEAL, former Navy SEAL, and 3 recon guys. So I was pretty proud of the way I shot. In fact, my platoon instructor said, Rooney, are you sure not a prior enlisted guy? Because you can shoot pretty well for a lawyer. So I was pretty proud of that. I maintained my expert level at the rifle my entire career, and I was an expert in the pistol as well. I still own I own a Glock, and I have a 9mm Beretta as well. The Beretta is not as powerful as many of you all know, but I have a muscle memory with it because that's what I trained with and used when I was in Iraq. When I was in the Marine Corps, I was mostly a prosecutor. I did some defense work. I went to Iraq between 2004 and 2005. I was in the Second Battle of Fallujah and the Battle of Najaf. The Second Battle of Fallujah was a lot different than the Battle of Najaf, but my task in Fallujah was to set up a humanitarian assistance site, the largest one there, to try to repopulate a city of about 30,000 folks. We did that in the period from November to January when the fighting was going on and when the fighting was over. Nobody got killed. That was a very proud moment we had in the Marine Corps because it was tough to bring all those people back in and not having suicide bombers or anything like that. Ended up processing hundreds of detainees as well. I had a lot of Sudanese, Saudis, Egyptians, Syrians, all there to fight us, the infidel, and saying it was their responsibility to come fight us. I'll never forget when I interrogated one guy, I said, how can you, we knew he was a Syrian Al-Qaeda guy, he gathered a family into one room and fought behind him. And I learned a lot about the radical Islamic mindset from this conversation. How can you fight behind women and children? Because the Marines are trained to assault through a source of fire, so when they're fired at you, have to go and assault through. It's the best way to put down that fire. Otherwise, if you circle the wagons, what they do in the movies, you end up getting picked off. It's not the way you fight. And unfortunately, when you have to go into these house-to-house, room-to-room fights, it's the toughest kind of fight we'll do in the world. In fact, Fallujah was the biggest fight the Marine Corps had since the Battle of Wei in Vietnam. And his response was, what do you mean?